So this work was some work that I did with Jim Galvin at Florida Atlantic University and myself, and we were sponsored by the Dementia with Lewy Bodies Association. And we were really curious and interested in finding out what are the caregiving differences between caregivers who are working with folks with dementia with Lewy bodies versus Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. And what was really profoundly interesting to us and I think really clinically meaningful for the caregivers of people with dementia with Lewy bodies is that the earlier stages of DLB caregiving was more burdensome in the sense of that the changes in the relationship and the heartfelt sadness and longing, the changes that were happening were affecting the sense of existential loss for those caregivers earlier on than the other types of dementia. So in Alzheimer's disease and in Parkinson's disease, they were incrementally growing. The burden associated with the dementia was changing the relationship, and it had become worse over time. But the folks with the DLB, the caregivers for the folks with DLB found it that right out of the gate, the psychiatric symptoms were incredibly burdensome, and that it was a shock, if you will, and that their sense of existential loss and grief and burden was the greatest right at the beginning. And so that this is really an important thing for caregivers and the associations that support them to understand that as soon as a DLB diagnosis is given, that's exactly when the highest sense of burden is being experienced by that caregiver. And we shouldn't wait. We shouldn't think that it's going to build in the same way that it builds in Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's, but rather right off the bat, this is the time to intervene aggressively and support the caregiver as best we can.